Hello everybody, my name's Atley. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back to my channel if you're a returning viewer. Thanks for that. And welcome to a new game. Satisfactory is an early access game on Steam. I'm actually playing the experimental build at the minute for update 7. At the time of recording, update 7 is in experimental. It's a new game to my channel. It's not a new game to me. I have about 400 or so hours in this game. But I'm starting a new save because I haven't played for nearly a year. Since I started my YouTube journey in SnowRunner, I've not really had time to play this. I haven't played much since early update 5, I would say. So I didn't get very far into update 5. Update 6 and 7 are out, and there's some stuff in there that I really like the look of, so I want to play it. I figure if I'm going to play it, I might as well record it and see if it turns out to be something I want to put on my channel. So I'm going to start a new save. A couple of things to say before we dive into the game. I'm starting in the grass fields area, mainly because it's the most mature from a developer roadmap perspective in the early access. These are all biomes of the same world, for anybody that's not aware of this game. These are all biomes of the same planet, and I will build in all of them. So where you start doesn't really affect where you end up, but grass fields is the one that's got the least likelihood of the developers changing the terrain in a way that might break my factory that I build. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is to mention I'm skipping the intro. There's a tier 0 tutorial intro section. I'm skipping it because I don't need to do it. If anybody was a new player, I would definitely recommend doing tier 0 because it teaches you quite a lot of stuff about the game and how it works. But from a content perspective, it's going to take me about an hour to do something that I can explain in a few minutes. So yeah, I'm going to skip the intro. I'm going to start in grass fields. It's my third save, but we're going to jump into the game and carry on talking in the game. Right, so first thing I'm going to do is equip a weapon. You get a basic little cattle prod. It's not really a combat game, but there is some corner in the game that will attack you if you get too close to it. So I've just equipped a weapon to protect me a little bit against that. And then the other thing I'm doing is I'm picking up grass and loose branches on the floor because I'm going to need these for powering early factories until we can get some automated fuel going on. So this is the grass fields biome. You can see I'm not going to trouble them because they're not in the direction I need to go, but I'm just going to go into photo mode so I can zoom in and show you. There are some hogs here. If we got close enough, they will aggro me, and I would have to use the cattle prod to defend myself, kill them, and take their innards as crafting ingredients. But I'm going to leave those in peace because I am not going to build in this area initially. I kind of know where I'm going to be building early on, and I'm starting to run there now. My landmark is a big stone arch. I'm just collecting some vegetation and food products as we go. You can see a big stone arch just come into the view there in the middle of the screen. We're heading to that direction because that's where roughly I'll build my first factory. So what is this game? It's a factory automation game, amongst other things. There's a fair bit of exploration involved in it as well, but ultimately it's a factory automation game. That's its purpose. Let's get this. And you collect resources. I'm doing that by hand at the moment, but it's really about automation. So at some point I'll be putting down a mining device that will gather those resources more efficiently than me trying to hand collect everything. Same applies to fuel. Just in front of me there, there's going around this rock, there's another creature. This is a bean, or Mr. Bean. I call them Mr. Bean. But they are completely non-hostile. They won't hurt you at all. They can be a bit annoying because they wander through your factory and they clip through things. They're a bit weird. Their pathing is a bit strange sometimes. So they do annoy me a little bit, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to hurt them. If anything, I'll try and build my factories so that even if they path near me, it won't hurt. So that's that. Up there, you can maybe just about make out there's a slug thing. Again, I'll go into photo mode to show it. Don't know if I'll be able to get to that one, but that's another thing that you need to collect. It's another resource. From around here, I don't think I'll be able to jump onto that. It's too high. But you collect resources, you build factories. The factories you can build early game are pretty simple. They get very complicated very fast, and really this is a complicated building game, is its genre. Coming up here, what's this? This is copper. Yeah. Don't really need this, but I'll pick it up while I'm here. I don't think I'm going to be able to... No, that's too far away. I'm not going to be able to reach that slug. That's too far for me to jump, I think. So we'll carry on going in the direction we need to. Just, you can kind of hear it, but there's a big flying beastie. Again, doesn't do you any harm. It's just a prop, really. But interestingly, you can get up there and jump on that thing's back and fly around the world. You can't control it. You can just have a decent view from its back. There's another bean there. That's the second one. So there's a couple in the area that I'm going to be building, and they can get in the way a little bit. And the other thing, before I get close enough to activate it, that I wanted to show, there's a red node thing there, and it's an alien artifact. I need to talk about them because I'm going to be near that one. I'm going past that in a second. It's going to talk to me, and it's a bit strange. It talks to you in a distorted female voice. It's trying to impersonate your personal assistant, and it's trying to brainwash you into picking it up. Now, I choose not to pick them up because they're part of the work in progress that's not yet finished, and I don't believe it'll be finished until this game goes into 1.0 full release. So during early access, I don't expect those to be used, and I'd rather save them for when this save gets to version 1.0 and then run around and do all of that lore stuff. I don't really know how that's going to work because nobody does unless you're a developer, but I am going to try to avoid interacting with those things. There's a hog has noticed me. There's one. Yeah. There's a couple of hogs in this area. You can sidestep them. They're pretty fast, but you can sidestep them and hit them with this little cattle prod. You get better weapons for dealing with them at some point. There's two on me now. That one's dead. The other one managed to get a hit on me. They're not too dangerous as long as you don't get loads of them on you. Sidestep and a bit of jumping and they're not too bad. And then when you've killed them, you get these hog remains, which you can use for progression and crafting. Yeah, so 2 lots of hog remains collected. And now we can proceed. But I am going to be hearing that work in progress thing talk to me in a minute. If it gets too annoying, I will pick it up and stick it in a crate just to stop it ruining my gameplay.
I strongly advise you to harvest this specimen.
There you go. Strongly advised me to harvest this specimen. That's a copper node that I've just picked up some materials from. There's a node in the floor, but I'm just going to run away from this area to avoid interacting with that thing. And go to the area where we're going to build our first factory. I know this area reasonably well because I played my first and second saves here. There's another hog here, let's kill him. I've killed him right on the limestone, and there's a clipping problem. I can't pick that up. That's probably going to be there forever because I don't think they despawn those because it's a resource. But anyway, that's my mistake. So this is, I'm far enough away that that thing won't talk to me now. So this is an example of one of the nodes, and you've got these nodes on the floor that are, this one's a limestone, the one we were just at is copper, and then over there there's 2 iron nodes with another hog on it that we'll kill in a sec. But you put miners down on these nodes, you take the product from those miners into smelters and constructors and things, blenders and manufacturers. There's lots of ever-increasing complexity in this game, but you supply power to the factory buildings and they produce you some automated goods. and that's what we're going to get into pretty soon. But yeah, that's the basis of this game, is to exploit those nodes and build factories to consume the goods and make other goods. Ultimately, all the way up to nuclear reactors and things, but obviously we're going to start a lot more simply than that. One of the things you do, or the main focus of the tier 0 that I skipped, is in my inventory I've got this hub parts block, which is a special ingredient that you get as part of doing the first tutorial, and it allows you to build this hub, which is basically your base camp, your base of operations. And I'm going to put it down here. I'll move it at some point in the early episodes. Once I get foundations unlocked, I'll move it to make it a bit tidier. But as a base of operations, I'll just start it off here. And just to explain what this is, it's your base camp. It's also home of a cargo drone that's just landing there. One of the cool features of this game. You can't fly that, it's just a drone. But it takes some of your manufactured goods up to some entity in space, the Fix-It Corporation. And you're here, you can kind of think of this as you're the bad guys from the Avatar movie. You're here to exploit the planet, which is an interesting take. So that's got the drone at that end. It's also on this end got 2 biomass burners, which could take the leaves that I've been collecting or the hog remains, etc. Basically any biomass can be put in here to burn and make electricity. And this one has a capacity of 20 megawatts. There's another one that's the same, so 40 megawatts from this building. And you connect them up via, like I can put a power pole down here, and then I can connect both of those up to that power pole, and then that gives me a combined capacity of 40 megawatts, but I've got to put some fuel in to start the process going. So that's on that end is a couple of bio burners. On this end is the drone, and then in the middle you've got a storage box. I'll just chuck in the stuff that I know I'm not going to use right away. Do for now. You've got this is an important thing, this is your progression terminal. So in here you have different tiers of recipes. We've currently got access to tier 1 and 2, and you can unlock things like foundations, logistics, a map, and some research tools. And then on tier 2 you've got ever increasing complexity of goods. So we'll come back to this in a sec. And then the other thing to show is that there's a craft bench here. I'll start crafting while I talk about this. I'm just going to let this auto craft some stuff while I talk. So this is making biomass from leaves, and I'm doing it by hand on a craft bench. And I can also make concrete, cable, screws, copper ingots. When I make copper ingots, that will become an ingredient that allows me to make copper wire, etc. And you can craft quite a lot of stuff at the craft bench, but it's not efficient to do so because you're doing all of the work yourself, and therefore you can't be doing anything else with your time. So the point of this game is to automate all of the things that I'm currently crafting, plus all of the things that we will unlock as the game progresses. Let's just make some copper ingot and turn that into wire. And I don't do a lot of handcrafting in this game, but early doors you have to. So for example, at the moment I've got some reinforced iron plates that the game gave me at the start. I haven't got enough. I'll have to craft them. And at the moment, I don't have the ability to automate that until I unlock something on that progression tree. So that's crafted up all of the useful stuff that's in my inventory. And I will now start building. So if I come around here, biomass, which I've just handcrafted, is more efficient fuel than just putting leaves in directly, which is why I've done it. And that's now producing a capacity, well, that's got a capacity of 40. Because I'm not consuming any of it, it's not actually producing, so all of the animations running, it's not consuming any of the goods until I build a factory that makes use of it. So we're going to do that next. And while I'm running around as well, early game, I will be picking up everything I pass. Partly because they're in my way. Got a hog to kill here. Just sort him out. When you get injured by these things, your health bar, which is in the bottom left there, slowly creeps back up. So if you can avoid dying, your health bar will recover. But you also, as you unlock things, you also get healing kits, basically food that will heal you, medical devices that will heal you. So that's something we'll sort out when we need it. So this is 2 iron nodes. This is going to be the first place we build. So I think what I'll do first is plates and then rods. This is sounding a little bit like a tutorial. It's definitely not meant to be. I'm not doing a tutorial for this game. It's not my style. This is a let's play. But I'm just explaining enough about the basics of the early game in case there's anybody that's come here from SnowRunner, wondered what Atlay's playing at, and doesn't know anything about the game. But I'm not going to be explaining everything as I go. But this is basically explaining the bit that you would have got if you'd have done tutorial tier 0. So I've now put down a miner. It's unpowered, so it's not doing anything at the moment. I'm then going to put a smelter in front of it, leaving a little bit of a gap. I'm then going to put a constructor in front of that, again leaving a little bit of a gap. And then on the end, I'm going to do a storage box. Again, leaving a little bit of a gap. Then I'll connect them all up with conveyor belts. And what that's going to do is when I power it up, it will take iron ore from here into the smelter, which I will then configure to turn iron ore into ingots. And then the ingots will come into here and get turned into iron plate. And then the plate will end up in that storage box. And that's our first little production line. We've got to do some power. So we'll do a power pole here for that one. Another one there for that one. Then we'll put another one here for this miner. And then we'll connect those back to base. Pole there. And another pole. Let's say there, which can connect onto this. And what's happening now is we've suddenly started consuming some of those 40 megawatts. So that will now start consuming biomass. And my max consumption is 13 megawatts. So you can see if I built much more like I've just done, I will run out of power pretty quickly. So therefore we'll have to build more power. But that's doing metal plates. So you see the principle, right? That's, you can see there's iron ore there moving down that belt into the smelter. Smelter's chucking out fumes and producing ingots into this constructor. And then that constructor is putting out iron plates, which will come into this storage box, and then I can run along anytime I want iron plates and collect them from that storage box. And that is basically the gist of the game. And it just gets more complicated from there. So I'm going to quickly build another little factory based on this limestone node. That's a miner. You don't need to smelt limestone, you just put it straight into a constructor. So we'll do that. So if I've done that in the wrong direction, I have. So if you can delete them and you get all of the goods back, so you don't waste anything when you delete. And we'll put the miner back down, but we'll get it pointing in a more favorable direction. Constructor off the end of it, again leaving a little bit of a gap, not so important for this. Belt them up. Belt this one around and turn it, so you can manipulate the direction that these conveyors are going to go to some extent. And then we'll put another storage box Conveniently located somewhere like there. That look alright? Yeah, that'll do. And then that can go to that belt. And then we'll configure this to do concrete from limestone. And we'll bring some power from this distribution line to here, which will start the mine going. And we'll do the other one there and connect it onto the constructor. And that will allow some concrete to get produced. And what's our power consumption? You can go to any power pole to find out your consumption. So we've now got a consumption of 22 against a supply of 40. I want to build another similar setup for copper. So let's just have a look at what it'll cost me. This is another feature I love about this game. You can do a shopping list. I want a constructor, and probably that'll do for now. So and then I'm gonna persevere with the red work in progress alien artifact talking to me, and go down there and build a little copper setup to do some copper wire. Get a bit of foliage out of the way. And then that node, we're going to put a miner on it pointing this way. We're going to put a smelter in front. Again, leaving a bit of distance, but I do want it turned slightly. I don't want it there, maybe. That belt alright? Comply. And then a constructor about there.
You are so lucky that you found this most valuable artifact.
Didn't want that wire. I meant to do another pole.
Harvest it.
And then I've got to get the power from here.
Breaking news from Earth. Widespread chaos and mayhem. World President
to there.
urges all citizens to do their part and harvest alien artifacts.
So for now, this is only going to do wire. I'll need cable as well. So that's copper ore being turned into copper ingots. Copper ingots into copper wire.
Comply.
And then the output of that. And now I'm going to put a post about there. And then I'll connect that to the belt. Wrong way. There. I'm going to put something else in this line in a minute, which is why I've left a bit of a gap. And then we'll run that belt up to here. And back to base, so that I don't need to go down there to collect my copper wire. I can belt it quite a long distance. You can go all the way across the map with belts if you want. You get more efficient transport mechanisms, but for now this would be alright. Too steep. Too steep. Did that one wrong. Delete it, and then you can work over quite a long distance with this game.
You are so lucky that you found this most valuable artifact.
And then in here, we'll put a storage box. I need more iron plates, but luckily I've got some being built over here. Bit of running around in the early game. Lots of handcrafting, lots of running around. Lots of juggling how much power you've got versus the resources that you can make. Turn the belt around so the front is coming this way. Put that about there. And then we'll do a belt connection. And now I will have copper wire coming from that site down there, along this belt, up to the, and bringing it to my base. Now, it is just starting to get dark. Quick couple of words about that, right? So this game has a day-night cycle. I thought about doing a permaday mod, but I've ended up deciding not to. And part of the rationale for that is that day-night cycle is 1 hour of real time, but it's only about 15 minutes of that is nighttime. So your majority of playtime in this game is daylight, and nighttime can actually be useful. It's also good content because there's spiders and nasties, and I'm a little bit arachnophobic. I'm not a big fan of spiders, and I think it might be funny to see me trying to run away from spiders in the dark and crying like a little baby. So I'm going to leave, basically I'm going to leave this as a vanilla playthrough. At the moment I've not got any mods. If I do any mods, it'll probably be for camera use, so I can make more interesting content. I can do like time-lapse cameras and things, but at the moment there's no mods installed on this save at all. Right, so we've got 3 production lines running, and our power consumption with 3 production lines running is getting pretty close to my max now. I'm consuming 35 of 40 capacity. So what I need to do is expand my power options, and under power I can make biomass. I'm temporarily going to bind that to the toolbar. I need some metal rods to do that, and at the moment I don't have enough metal rods. So I need a metal rods factory, but I haven't really yet got the power to run one. So what I'm going to do temporarily is change this one's recipe to rods. And then when I come back to it in a minute, I'll have a bunch extra metal rods. And then under the queue menu, I'll queue up that I want to make 3 of those. So I need 45 rods to do that, plus some for power poles. So while that's accumulating some of those, let's put some more of this stuff that I don't currently need in there. You can expand this inventory quite quickly. And let's talk about unlocks. So what am I going to unlock first? The obvious thing is bases, but I'm not doing that. I'm also not doing logistics just yet, because at the moment one of my main bottlenecks is power. And if I do obstacle clearing, which is a tier 2 unlock, I can have a chainsaw which allows me to chop down trees and clear wide areas, like a brush cutter effectively. It allows me to clear vegetation faster, but more importantly it unlocks biofuel, which is a more efficient form of biomass, and it allows me to turn the biomass that I'm handcrafting into solid biofuel, which is more efficient basically. Plus I'll get some inventory slots for it, which is only 3, but it's still useful. So this is going to be the first one that I unlock, but I don't have enough cement, cable, and I've got no screws at all. So we'll do power first, and then you could handcraft screws, but I need more rods to do that. So turning rods into screws is counterintuitive because I need 45 rods. So we'll do the power first and get some more power capacity, and then we need to tweak our factories to produce screws. So I'm going to take that and do a little bit of handcrafting just because it allows me to make faster progress. And I don't do a lot of that, but it is worth it in this case. So let's go till about 55 rods have been made. Okay. And then now we can put down some extra biomass burners. We'll put them back here, kind of in a line-ish. Not particularly tidy, but that'll do. So that's 3 biomass burners. I can then take a line from this power pole to here and connect all 3 burners. We'll start this one, fill it up with biomass. refill the 2 that are on my base because they've been burning away. They've gone for about 60 each. And this is a finite supply at the moment, right? Because I'm having to hand collect it. And hand collecting is bad for efficiency. But what's just happened there is I've now got, whereas I was consuming 35 of 40 capacity, I'm now consuming 35 of 130 capacity, which is good. Just gives me a bit more headroom to build more stuff. And then the next thing I'm going to do is some modification to this production line. Is I'm going to take out that conveyor and that storage. I'm going to build another constructor on the end, again leaving a little bit of a gap. I'm going to belt that one to there, take power, put it there, and then configure this one to make screws from the rods that are coming in. And we've now got, originally that made plate, we've got a little bit of plate in stock now. Power, oh, I've got to connect it up, haven't I? And now I've got a production line that's got 2 constructors in sequence. The first one's making rods from ingots and the second one's making screws from rods. And then I'll put down another storage box. This time I'll put it so I don't have to run quite so far to get to it. And we'll connect that up to there. And that's going to put screws in little fix-it tubs in that container. Thank you very much. That's the screws sorted out. Now I need to make cable. And cable you make from wire. At the moment I've got wire coming in here. And I think I will, for now, handcraft the 100 cable that I need. So I'll do a bit of extra cable because I know I'll need it for doing wire connections and so on. And then I also have enough concrete in there. And then this is going to be a while before it's got 500. While I'm waiting for that to make me enough screws, let's go on a little adventure up here where there are some other types of creatures for me to attack. So I know around here there's some different types of creatures. So here there is this blue ball thing, puts out bees that attack you. They're horrible, I hate them. You end up with rifles that allow you to kill them from a distance, snipe them. So I'm looking forward to that. But so that's a different type of animal remains that I just picked up. There's also up here this spitter thing, and I know that he's here and I want to get rid of him so I don't forget him. He spits plasma or fire or whatever. Took a bit of damage there, lost 3 health points, but this one is plasma spitter remains. And then there's obviously another summer sloop thing here somewhere. There's a slug up there, still can't quite get to that one. That's probably enough, and it's coming into daylight. So where's the sunrise? Down from the shadows. It is a visually stunning game. They've done a cracking job of it. And there's the sun coming up. Yeah, so it's a very, very pretty game. I'm a big fan of the aesthetic of the game. And I just like this grass fields area as well. Lush green fields, what can go wrong? Picking up lots of vegetation. Some of this woody looking vegetation you can pick up. Some of it on this wall is actually a ladder that you can climb up. Takes you to a new area, and if you're careful you can jump up into there. This is the exploration bit of the game. I'm a bit parkour and I'm not very good at it. Some of this jumping stuff is a bit tricky. I don't want to fall off that edge. So there's no hostile creatures up here, but this is just a pillar that I've got upside of. What there is one of these blue slugs, and they become important, very important, because you can use them to overclock your factory. You can also get a nice aerial view of your factory. That's what we've built so far. Looks alright, doesn't it? It's a bit spaghetti. All of this will be torn down. This is all just starter spaghetti stuff that's there for early progression and unlocks of the game. I doubt if we've produced enough screws yet, because it's quite slow. Just doing something useful while I'm waiting for the screws to be done. What we will do, though, is build in the line that we originally had for plates. We'll put it back in. So we need to build a mine, a smelter, constructor, and a storage box. And to do that, we need 2 more reinforced iron plates. And at the moment, I don't have a device that can make reinforced iron plates automatically, because the reinforced iron plate requires 2 inputs, plates and screws. So I'll probably make about 8. You need 2 per constructor, so as you scale up, you end up using quite a lot of reinforced iron plates. So I'll just pre-make a bunch. Let's use some of the screws, unfortunately, but it doesn't mean that I can do something useful, which is to build another production line. Get this. I want it to come in the same direction, basically. About the same line. Same line as that. Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? And then that, another smelter. The exact positioning isn't too critical. Another constructor. Built them up. And set this one to doing plates again. So ingots. And plates. And then we'll do another storage box next to this one. Build that up. And power. 1. One. And that one can power the mine. So we got a second line of iron resources. First one making rods into screws. And then the second line doing plate. So now, the only thing we're missing in terms of automation of this very early stuff is we haven't got automated cable yet, but we will have that soon. Make up the biomass from what we've got. And put away the things we're currently not using again. Plates are flowing, that's good. Screws. Need to be patient, need a couple hundred more screws. So handcraft them to move us forward. Let's do that. Okay, so that's enough screws. Let's get this milestone done. So the way these milestones work is you put the resources in once you've got enough, and then you hit the big red button, which is very satisfactory.
Milestone reached. Biofuel will ensure maximum efficiency of biomass burners. To aid in biofuel production, you are now capable of removing foliage that consists primarily of wood. Additionally, R&D inflated your pocket dimension.
So Ada was talking to me there. While she was talking, I like watching the drone disappear. Then the drone will be gone for another 2.5 minutes before I can do anything else. But that's that milestone complete. And when you finish all of these milestones, you unlock the next tier. And the next one I am going to do will be logistics. So let's just get a clue of what it is I need. I can select it. I can't hand stuff into it yet. So I need more rods, more plates, and more wire. Which means temporarily, I want to delete that belt. because I want the rods to accumulate instead. Delete that belt as well. And put it into there. It's clipping through there. I don't like that. I hardly ever allow anything to clip. There's some soft clipping where it looks good, but that looked wrong because it was clipping physically. So I've just put a little kink in that line, but it's a temporary line anyway. We're now going to collect some more rods. We've already got plates. And then we've also got wire. So that gives me enough wire. I just need to let those rods develop. Something else. So while that's producing, another thing to mention at this point, because it's convenient, I've now unlocked the ability to make a chainsaw, but I can't make chainsaws here, because this is all about constructing parts. But there's another workbench, so I'll just quickly put down the equipment workshop. And I usually like to have that hanging off the back of my hub. It's inconvenient, and it's got a different type of workbench in it. It's an equipment workbench rather than a craft bench, and that allows you to make chainsaw. So if I add that to the to-do list, I need to make a chainsaw. I need more screws and more cable. So let's make some more screws, and then let's make some more cable. That then gives me the ability to make a chainsaw. And the noise in the background there is my drone just reappeared.
Milestone exchange concluded. Fix-it freighter re-entry complete.
And it's back. So I've now got in my inventory a chainsaw, which I can put in my hand slot, and you end up with multiple hand slots, so you can just mouse wheel between items. But at the moment, in order to use a chainsaw, I had to unequip my zapper. But to use a chainsaw, you need solid biofuel. And at the moment, I don't have any. So I'll handcraft a little bit of that to allow the chainsaw to work. And that then allows me to go out and chop down things like these woody bushes that I wasn't previously able to cut. And it doesn't just cut down, like there's several of those bushes here. If I select just the one in the middle, like this one's on its own, if I select any of them, what it'll do is an AoE clearance. So it got rid of all of them in that area, which is how you can cut down resources much faster. And you collect biomass a lot quicker. Now, temporarily, and this is all temporary to be fair, but temporarily what I'm going to do is put another little production line in the middle here with just a constructor. So I need one more reinforced iron plate and some more cable. I do not have enough metal plates. What is it I'm missing to make a reinforced iron plate? More screws. So one more reinforced iron plate and then some cable. Can't remember how much I needed, but let's make 50. So we'll do a constructor roughly there, and then we'll put a box on one side of it. Doesn't need to be much of a gap between them. I'm missing more rods. Empty both of these. And belt those together. So this is going to be a temporary building that will make solid biofuel for me. If I then put that in that box and keep that box filled manually. So this is like a manual production chain. The source is a storage box. I'm just going to put some power onto that. On there for now, will do. And I'll do all of this a bit neater when I've got foundations and things. It's kind of in the way at the moment, but it'll do the job. Let's take all of that out of there. So I handcraft biomass. Eventually I'll end up automating that as well. But biomass handcrafts really quickly. Solid biofuel is slow to handcraft. So that's why I'm doing biomass by hand and then put the biomass in that storage box and let the constructor do the hard work while I'm off doing other things. And then that'll now give that a decent amount of biomass to run on. And then when I've got enough biofuel, I will replace the biomass that's currently in these burners with something that is more efficient. And then now I've got 40 fuel on me to go and collect up more biomass while this is producing enough. I haven't got enough yet. I've got enough plate. Got enough rods yet? No. So I need more rods. I'll wait for that to process. And we'll start the grand deforestation. So you can cut pretty big trees. There are some scenic trees that you can't cut down, but most of the trees you can cut down with this machine now. All of this work for biofuel at the moment. Eventually, and I don't think it'll take too long on this series, we'll be doing coal generation. Then we'll be taking oil and turning it into fuel and having oil-based power generation. And then we'll move on from that. There's another spitter. Much prefer to take those out from a distance with a rifle, but I haven't got one yet, so beggars can't be choosers. Yeah, so we won't be running around chopping trees down for the sake of it for long, but we will be clearing out trees when they are located in the middle of an area we want to build on. Worth picking up the mushroom. You don't chop those down, you get to it. So you'll clear trees out the way of a factory that you want to build. You don't really end up, or I don't end up, chopping down trees for the sake of it. But I don't care about them being scenic here, because this is an area that I know I'm going to build a pretty big building around here. So just clearing stuff out and getting plenty of fuel now is good. Right, that should be enough. Let's get that crafted up, and I'm sure by the time we've done that, we'll have enough rods to do the next milestone. Right, so chuck all of that biomass in there. And then let's see how many rods. Got enough yet? Yep, we got enough. Make sure we got enough cable, then we'll do the next milestone. And then we'll do the last thing for this episode, is a little bit of making it all a little bit more efficient. So let's hand in that milestone. Big red button.
Milestone reached. Conveyor belts can now merge, split, and lift to increase the complexity and efficiency of your factory. We encourage you to consider more verticality when it comes to factory logistics to streamline short-range transportation. The productivity display will help you measure and improve the productivity of individual buildings to aid with optimization.
Right, so what we're going to do now is we've just got access to logistics, which is basically the most important part of it for me, is splitters and mergers, the conveyor lines, and then lifts. But in terms of what I want to do for this episode, we are going to put a splitter. So what that does, I can add it to that line and it'll split that line in 3 ways. Why would you want to do that? Well, this miner is capable of producing 60 ore per minute, but this smelter is only capable of consuming 30 per minute. And you can unlock overclocking and so on later, but at the moment it can only consume 30. So therefore, half of the output of that miner is not being wasted because the miner stalls, but half of the potential of that miner is being wasted. Whereas if I put another smelter alongside and belt it off a splitter into another smelter, give it the iron recipe and power it, I've now got 2 smelters courtesy of that splitter that are consuming 30, which means that mine is being fully utilized. I can then put another, if I can fit in. I haven't really left myself a lot of space here, have I? So try and move it forward a little bit. What I'm going to do is get rid of this temporary belt, put it back to doing screws, and screws into that box. And then I'm going to do a constructor out here somewhere. A little bit of a mess, but it'll be fine. So that line is now doing screws. This line can come through and do, and it's powered, rods. And then for the sake of neatness, we'll have another box here, remove that belt, and we'll have that belt going into the new box, and that belt with rods going into that box. And then what I've done is I've got 2 mines with the courtesy of just 1 splitter. I'm producing 3 different outputs into these boxes. I'll empty them all out because that one, yeah, that one's doing plates. That one is doing plates and now rods. So that's rod, and then this one is now back to being screws. So I've got screws, rods, and plates being produced into these 3 boxes, and that's because I've got splitters. And I've decided to put all 3 of those into a box each. There's my drone coming back. But the other thing that I'm missing at the moment is this box is only accumulating wire, not producing cable. So I'm going to come down to my copper plant, and I will have the work in progress alien artifact spamming me a little bit. I'm going to delete this line, put a, actually no I'm not,
Comply.
I won't delete that line. I did delete that line, but I've put it back. And then I'm going to do the same thing here because it's got the same stats. It can only consume 30 copper. So we'll put another smelter
Lucky that you found this most valuable artifact.
here. We'll put a splitter on there and feed it into, and then we'll do power for that smelter.
Comply.
Tell it to do copper. And then I need another constructor alongside.
From Earth. Widespread chaos and mayhem. World President urges all citizens to do their part and harvest alien artifacts.
Then those into there can do more wire. And what I need, this is a bit that confused me a little bit just now, is powered.
Comply.
And what I need is another constructor, but I haven't got the resources to do that. I'm missing 2 reinforced iron plates, but away from home, I don't have to go all the way back to the craft bench. I can just build a craft bench where I am working, make a couple more reinforced iron plates, and then delete the craft bench. And now what I'll do, this is why I deleted this line in the first place, is another constructor slightly in front.
You are so lucky that you found this most valuable artifact.
Connect it up to power. And then this one can turn the wire that's coming in into cable. And then, very similar to the splitter I did, I can make a merger, which will merge 3 lines into one. And therefore the line from this can go into the merger. And what we're going to have is one line from the same mine, one line of constructors making cable, another one making wire, and those two will merge into a single line, and therefore my base will be receiving. Let's use this as a highway.
Your contract legally compels you to harvest this artifact.
My base will start receiving cable and wire into that same storage box, which will be really useful for me. And that is pretty much all I need to do. So I'm going to pick this up. I always delete limestone that I happen to get while I'm out in the wilds. Pick up all of the biomass that I've got, which gives me how much? 470. So I've got 470. Divide that 5 ways. Let's call them roughly 100 each. And then what we're going to do is put 100 solid biofuel, or as close as we can get to 100, in each of these burners. $85 each in these two. And putting that in has taken out the biomass, which I then put into this input box. And that gets turned into fuel. It doesn't increase the capacity, but it does make the fuel last longer. So although I put 100 in, it lasts more than twice as long. 4 per minute, whatever the stats are. So the thing for me to do now, that's going to be the end of this episode. The thing for me to do now is to just wait, and I'll leave this running for an hour or so, and therefore I will accumulate a lot more resources so that at the start of the next episode we can unlock lots more things faster, because we'll have lots of stuff just accumulated in these storage boxes. And then next episode we'll move on to the we'll progress through the unlocking and move on to the next tier of manufacturing, where you start combining things into more complicated items. So we'll automate reinforced iron plates, modular frames, rotors, and smart plating. But that's for next episode. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. New game to my channel. I'm quite excited about playing it, and I'm just hoping that it's exciting for people to watch, because I'd like to play it as part of my YouTube experience to build upon what I've already started with SnowRunner. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed the episode. I hope to see you in the next episode. But in the meantime, thank you very much and goodbye.